Schmells. We're in the 2 o'clock hour now, and we have breaking news that we've been covering over the last couple hours or so. The news broke that Attorney General Pam Bondi is out from the White House and no longer going to be serving as Attorney General. She will be replaced in the interim by Todd Blanche, who was the Deputy Attorney General, will now be the Acting Attorney General until President Trump can pick a new replacement. Some of the rumors we're hearing and some of the talks include possibly Lee Zeldin, the EPA administrator, taking that position. He was a former governor or former gubernatorial candidate in New York, came relatively close to beating Kathy Hochul not so long ago, but was ultimately unsuccessful. He's a former member of Congress, has a lot of strong political backing from those in New York, which is the home state of President Trump. And then he's also considered to be widely respected among both sides of the aisle. So he is somebody who could step into this role, but you're also hearing some other names being floated out there. You know, don't rule out Todd Blanche potentially getting the job long term, but if President Trump is looking for a fresh start in this position, Lee Zeldin seems like somebody who might be able to give him that and also be someone who can get the 50 votes needed to be confirmed as Attorney General. Now, we do have some new reaction coming in here right now. There's been this talk about the House Oversight Committee potentially having Pam Bondi still testify before the committee as part of their Epstein investigation. The top Democrat in that committee, Robert Garcia, the ranking member, says that he still wants Pam Bondi to testify under oath about the Epstein files. But we did just hear from a House Oversight Committee spokesperson. This is from Fox News producer Kelly Ferris. Since Pam Bondi is no longer Attorney General, Chairman Comer will speak with Republican members and the Department of Justice about the status of the deposition subpoena and confer on next steps. Now we've got a number of different reactions coming in here. We got right here from Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, saying Pam Bondi is a partisan, petulant political hack, and now she's gone. Keep the pressure on every single one of these extremists. Now we have a longer statement.
Pam Bondi fired. You're fired.
Todd Blanche, who's the now acting Attorney General. So this is from Hakeem Jeffries, the top House Democrat. The so-called Attorney General is the pathetic psychopathic political hacks installed with her have repeatedly weaponized the Department of Justice and taxpayer dollars to target political opponents of Donald Trump, trample the rights of law-abiding Americans, and silence and attempt to intimidate those who disagree with the administration. Pam Bondi has lied to Congress and the American people. Under her tenure, the department has lost centuries of professional experience, willfully violated federal law and judicial orders alike, while at the same time hiding millions of documents linked to the Epstein files in a massive cover-up. This long overdue firing is not enough to restore the credibility of the Justice Department or fix this rotten, out-of-control administration. House Democrats will hold every political extremist involved in unprecedented abuses of power accountable to their lawlessness. Now let's go ahead and get over to Todd Blanche, the acting Attorney General's reaction here. Pam Bondi led this department with strength and conviction, and I'm grateful for her leadership and friendship. Thank you to President Donald Trump for the trust and the opportunity to serve as acting Attorney General. We will continue backing the blue, enforcing the law, and doing everything in our power to keep America safe. So, reactions coming in here. Now we're hearing this from Aisha Hasni. So, President Trump tells Peter Doocy Pam Bondi
you're fired.
AG, she will get a different job in the admin. Her deputy AG, Todd Blanche, will take over in the interim. So that came out earlier today. Peter Doocy, the White House correspondent for Fox News, spoke directly to President Trump, is our understanding, and President Trump told him that was the plan. Now, we should probably point out that President Trump had a very different reaction on Truth Social, because I want to get to this, because I think there's some conflicting information here. So I'll read the Truth Social post up from President Trump. If we're able to get to that, we can show it on the screen. If not, I can read Schumer real quick, but this is important. So President Trump said, Pam Bondi is a great American patriot and a loyal friend who faithfully served as my Attorney General over the past year. Pam did a tremendous job overseeing a massive crackdown in crime across our country, with murders plummeting to their lowest point since the 1900s. We love Pam, and she will be transitioning to a much-needed and important new job in the private sector, to be announced at a date in the near future. And our Deputy Attorney General and a very talented and respected legal mind, Todd Blanche, will stop in to serve as acting Attorney General. Thank you.
All right, guys. Don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. You know why Donald Trump fired Pam Bondi? Because they know he knows that the Democrats are on her ass. So yeah, you're gone, Pam. I'm gonna bring somebody else in, so and try to help her disappear. That's the plan. Nobody. But anyway, she deserves to be fired. You're fired. This is funny. They said she was crying. I don't know. Like Chuck Schumer said, good riddance. Pam Bondi was the wrong choice from the start. But the rot at the Department of Justice begins and ends with Donald Trump. Facts. Starts from the top and works its way down.
Very divisive member of Congress was the initial choice to be Attorney General. It appeared that he was not in a position to get the votes needed to.
Nancy May says, if the reports that Lee Zeldin would be replacing Pam Bondi as Attorney General are true, I welcome it. Pam Bondi handled the Epstein files in a terrible manner and made the situation far worse than it had to be for President Trump. I look forward to a new Attorney General committed to getting justice for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, because Pam Bondi was covering up the Epstein file, and so was what's his name? FBI guy. Lying Cash Patel. Just put lying in front of everybody. Lying Pam Bondi, lying Cash Patel, Carol lying Levitt, and lying Donald Trump. They're all liars. Yeah.
In all of Congress, especially when it comes to the Epstein files and the handling of that, saying this: I support Trump firing Pam Bondi. Do you? I hope the next AG will release all the Epstein files according to the law and follow up with investigations, prosecutions, and arrests. Let's keep in mind that Massey led the effort on the Republican side to pass this the release of the Epstein files, because that case is far from over with, and there's still numerous people that are being interviewed by the House Oversight Committee. Here's Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari, who also sits on the House Oversight Committee, which has been doing that investigation. I look forward to hearing from Pam Bondi on April 14th, where she must testify under oath per the lawful bipartisan subpoena from the Oversight Committee. And with that, we do have a statement here from the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia. Sorry, folks, I got a lot of notes here. We have a lot of reaction that came in with this breaking news. So Robert Garcia is saying this: Attorney General Pam Bondi has been leading a White House cover-up of the Epstein files. She has weaponized the Department of Justice to protect Donald Trump and put survivors in harm's way by exposing their identities. She will not escape accountability and remains legally obligated to appear before our committee under oath. She must answer for her mishandling of the Epstein files and the special treatment she has given Ghislaine Maxwell, who is serving jail time. She was accused and convicted of being a top associate with Jeffrey Epstein and aiding and abetting in many ways his human trafficking operation. So that's been a point of contention throughout this investigation. So Garcia going on to say this: Oversight Democrats have been leading serious investigations into Bondi and Secretary Kristi Noem. If they think we are moving on because they were fired, they are gravely mistaken. Again, that was Robert Garcia, who is the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, which is the committee that's been
created this really political wedge between the president and his supporters. And then also, we're learning that the president had complained about her shortcomings as a communicator, that he felt that the attorney general was not an effective television surrogate for him, which, as we know, is very important to this president as he looks, to put officials in charge of various departments who he feels like can best represent him on cable news, can defend
Donald Trump just threw you under the bus and you tried to take up for him,
what have you, defend his positions
on
live television. And there was a feeling that Pam Bondi was not the person to do that. And certainly Jake referenced this earlier. We had also seen the deputy attorney general put in charge of more press events, press conferences, breaking news on more things on behalf of the White House, which was perhaps the first indicator that there were some cracks in the trust between the Attorney General and the White House. And we're told that these conversations, who might replace Pam Bondi, that's when EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin's name came up, and there were conversations about possibly him.
You're fired.
But we don't know for sure whether or not he is the primary contender. We just know that he's one of the names that has been in the mix here. But the president started making those phone calls. He spoke with the Attorney General, as you've noted, yesterday during his appearance at the Supreme Court, let her know what he was thinking. Despite all of the very sort of cozy photos and what seemed to be just a normal interaction between a president and an attorney general, despite the very extraordinary circumstances of them going to the Supreme Court. But that was the conversation that was had there, and things moved relatively quickly, obviously, Reed, from there. But as we know, with the ouster with DHS Secretary Noem, oftentimes
NBC News special report. And here's Shelly Jackson.
Good day. We are coming on the air with breaking news. President Trump has apparently fired his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, according to a senior administration official and a source familiar with the matter. This comes after NBC News learned that the president has grown frustrated with his Attorney General in recent days, according to multiple sources. I want to get right to our team covering all of it. Our Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell is joining us. We've also got our White House correspondent Monica Alba as well. Kelly, let me start with you. This is not
couldn't have happened to a worse person.
Considering the reporting from NBC that the president was frustrated with Bondi's performance leading the Department of Justice. And we've often seen the president let some of his intentions, feelings, concerns bubble out publicly as one measure of how he makes these decisions. For Pam Bondi, this is a blow because she has been a very loyal sort of friend and ally of the president for a long time, going back to Florida, assisting in the first Trump term. And this, in many ways, comes down to a representation of the frustration that President Trump has, that his vision for how he could exact retribution against political rivals and those who had, in his perception, done him wrong at some past point to be brought to justice.
You got to remember, you can be loyal to Trump, but Trump ain't never going to be loyal to you.
Has not happened, even though this Department of Justice under Pam Bondi has attempted to do so in a number of areas where we've seen the failed attempts to prosecute James Comey or Letitia James. Then there's the broader issue of the Epstein files. There was a moment where Pam Bondi, who in the journey of her time as Attorney General has been both loyal but has also committed some self-inflicted errors. She talked about having the so-called Epstein list on her desk, and that never materialized. She had led people to believe there would be more coming on Epstein, and then initially last summer, the Department of Justice said the files would be closed, there was no action to be taken, and that triggered a groundswell that was a broader political coalition than you might expect, certainly those in the MAGA community, and then those who were very supportive of the survivor community around Epstein. Hallie, you've talked to a number of those survivors, and there was a political engine that developed around them, bringing it to a point where Congress required the Department of Justice to produce those files. They have done so, but only in a limited way. It has not been the full set of files. So Pam Bondi has not been able to insulate the president from some of the criticism related to the Epstein.
Pam Bondi, you're fired. You didn't talk to now one of those survivors. Good for you being fired.